Okay, this is Stress Month, and I'm talking to Lesley Tait. Lesley, do you want to tell us a little bit about what you do, and then we will move on to talking about stress?
Sure, thanks, Emily. So, yeah, I'm an emotional wellbeing coach, and I coach women through the menopause, be that perimenopause or postmenopause. And stress is one of the symptoms or contributors that I cover quite deeply in my program. So, yeah, it's definitely a subject that I know about, and it is definitely something that if you're experiencing perimenopause, then you need to be aware of, really.
Absolutely. And I think, yeah, stress is such a biggie, isn't it? It just upsets everything.
Yeah. One of the worst things actually for women experiencing perimenopause is stress. And unfortunately, when this hits us, we are at one of the most busiest stages of our lives. You know, we have partners, we have careers, running businesses, maybe kids, running the home. Parents might be getting a bit older, so there's kind of a bit of a lookout and of responsibility towards parents. There's just so much going on, and we're all juggling this and just about surviving through it all. So yeah, it's no wonder that women experiencing perimenopause are feeling the pressures of this alongside what's happening to them mentally and physically. So it's huge. It's absolutely huge. But I think what it's really important to try and understand why these things are bad for us. I mean, too much stress for anybody, it's not good. Too much stress can lead up to anxiety, and then we deal with a whole host of very complex problems once anxiety sets in. And a little bit of stress is good for us, but it's really useful to understand what's going on. Why aren't we able to manage the way we used to? And I certainly knew when I entered perimenopause, I wasn't coping very well at all. My mental health deteriorated quite a lot. And that's because I didn't recognize what was happening to me, and I wasn't really understanding the root cause of this. So I guess the question is, why is it such a big deal for women in perimenopause? So, we all know that during this phase of our lives, our hormone levels are fluctuating. Progesterone levels plummet during perimenopause. Now, progesterone, one of its purposes is to protect us from stress. It acts like a buffer to calm us when we get stressed, and it also impacts our mood, it impacts our sleep, it impacts our libido, and it impacts our bones as well. But this progesterone has a calming effect on the brain. And so when levels plummet, we don't have that calming effect. So any stress that we have in our lives, we're going to feel a bit more. And the lower the levels go, the more stress we're going to feel. And then the more stressed we get, the more cortisol our bodies are going to create. And obviously that's the stress hormone. So it's a bit of a double whammy. And so I think understanding it doesn't solve the problem, but it really does go some way to understanding, actually, this is quite normal and I'm not going mad, because every woman that I've spoken to who isn't sailing through the process thinks she's going mad, to be quite honest.
Yeah, absolutely. And I know for me personally, the things that previously I would just cope with used to absolutely floor me before I really understood what was going on. I would just find the tiniest things felt like they were tipping me over the edge.
Yeah, same here. I mean, particularly, at home, I was like, I would be crying one minute, screaming at somebody else the next. Definitely at work, I noticed I wasn't as resilient as I used to be. I just really thought, what is going on with me? I would bat this off normally in a day, nothing could touch me. And I really couldn't cope with all the stress that I was having to cope with, that I would normally have coped with so well. And unfortunately, my stress I left mine, and it did get to a point of anxiety. And, you know, when you get there, it takes a little bit of time to kind of unravel it. So I think it's really important that the sooner we understand what's happening and do our utmost to balance those hormones as best we can, and in terms of lifestyle, do everything we can to help protect our brains and our bodies from these changes. So having some strategies, I think, to help us deal with stress is absolutely essential. So there's a few questions that I always ask women to do when they come to me and they're talking about their stress or anxiety levels. And that is, you know, what are you doing in life that you could let go of? It's all about boundaries. So as I said before, you know, we're really busy at these times of our lives, and we often find it difficult to say no, I can't do that. Or we just think, oh, it's just easier if I do it myself. You know, I'll do that. I'll get up an hour earlier, or I'll work a bit later. And that's really not the answer. The answer is, what are you dealing with in your life that you can let go of? What can you outsource? What can you delegate? What can you say no to? It doesn't need to be a confrontational no. It's just right now I can't help you with that. I'm sorry, you know, maybe next week or next month. When did you last assess your boundaries? When did you look at who supports you and who are you supporting, and where the imbalances are there? You know, do you have a really robust support system of people who are going to listen to you and not try and fix you? Because, you know, you don't need fixing. You're not broken. You just need to be listened to, and you need to be understood. But are you trying to support too much? It goes back to saying no. And what are your absolute go-to, lean on, hang your hat on people when times get really, really tough? Have you got any of those people? And if you haven't, then maybe your boundaries are a little bit too high, and maybe you need to soften boundaries somewhere to let people in so that they can support you. The other thing that I find really useful when dealing with stress is, how are you accepting this transition? And I think accepting it is one of the biggest things that you need to overcome. And I totally stuck my head in the sand. No, this is not happening to me. The symbolic meaning of the word menopause just gave me this really skewed view of what it was. And I just think it wasn't until I accepted where I was in my life, but that didn't define me. It didn't put me into a box of women who are slowing down, haven't got anything left to offer, walking around in comfortable shoes, wearing enormous pants and elastic waistbands. You know, I know, and that's wrong. That's absolutely
it's so nice.
wrong.
It's so lovely that society and the media have led us to believe that, though, isn't it?
Yeah, because that was my perception. I just thought,
totally.
no, you know, but. And I'm totally wrong in saying that. So I think,
I will say I do like a comfy shoe and a comfy waistband.
Well, I like a comfy shoe too. I do admit I like a comfy shoe, but there are times when I want to wear something, you know, a little bit foxy. So, you know, and I'm not beyond that.
I've heard a comfy shoe since I was like 16. So I absolutely agree with you that, you know, there's all the sort of our life stresses that we can, you know, look at boundaries and things, but then there is this sort of extra stress of how society perceives us when we're getting older, and how we respond to that. And I know for some people there's quite a big sort of grieving process over the fact that they might not be able to have children again, even if they don't want any. There's still, for a lot of women, that, and all of those things are just extra stresses that you wouldn't have even considered factoring in.
Yeah, for sure. And I think you just touched on something there. Menopause is associated with age. and we need to erase that. It needs to go away, because that's what's leading people to think this is just for old women, and it's not. It's absolutely not. So there's definitely, accept it and don't let it define you, and try to change your perception of what it is. You haven't changed fundamentally as a person. Your body's changing, and you need to adapt to that, but you haven't changed as a person, so don't let it define you. What parts of your life don't serve you well anymore? I just mentioned, our bodies are changing, we need to adapt, and what we did last year or 2 years ago might be habits that just don't serve us very positively anymore. So map out your life, have a look at the different areas of your life and see what you're doing that actually is not contributing positively to your life now. How are you getting pulled into the hamster wheel? Again, it goes back to saying no, and it's really difficult to get off that hamster wheel once we're on it, but we have to slow down, we have to stop, we have to listen to our bodies and what our bodies are telling us that they need, because our bodies are constantly telling us what it is they need, and we're not slowing down to listen to that. We're in our heads all the time, we're constantly thinking, constantly on the go. So how much time are you taking to just slow down, just 5-10 minutes a day of giving yourself the silent treatment and just sitting and listening to your body? What's your heart telling you that you need today? And you know what, do it. If you need to go off for an hour, then whatever's in your diary that's not urgent and isn't a matter of life and death, take that hour, because if you take that hour and you give yourself some of that time back, you'll energize, you'll power up. And it's almost like slowing down to speed up. You've got to slow down, recharge the batteries to give you that energy to keep going. The other thing that I also discuss is, how are you comparing yourself to other people? Because that can stress you out. It can really stress you out. Oh, look at that person's the same age as me, and look at her, and look at her life. And social media doesn't help us with all of that. So try to stop comparing yourself to other people. And if social media isn't helping you, then come off it. This all goes back to having really good positive habits. But one thing I never ever do first thing in the morning is look at my phone, ever. I've got a morning routine. I don't look at social media. I don't want to see people reaching out for validation. Social media can really have very, very positive effects, and it's really powerful. But if you're a person that's going to get dragged into somebody else's perfect life that actually we know isn't quite so perfect because it doesn't exist, then don't spend so much time on social media, and try not to compare yourself to others, because you're wonderful and unique in your own way. You will never be, the same as somebody else. So
that's to be celebrated, isn't it? Rather than
absolutely
beat yourself up about. I think we we're the first generation who've been told that we can have it all, we can be all things to all people, and that means that we seem to have sort of got lost along the way as to what matters to us, and what's our each of us, our individual superpower. And social media and media generally has sort of distilled that down to the external. So what we look like is what we get judged on, when actually the least of our concerns. I mean, I always refer things to dogs, because I have too many dogs, and that's just how my analogies work. But if I look at my different dogs, I don't judge their personality on what they look like. And yet with humans, we inherently judge ourselves and consider ourselves to be a bad person, and therefore add extra stress because we're not wearing a size 8 or whatever. And it's And social media feeds that, you know.
It does feed that. It absolutely does. We are so judgmental of ourselves, and I often, when I'm talking to women, I'm coaching women, and they have this voice in their head, you know, comes on to my next point. I should be this. I should be that. Who says you should be like this? Or
I hate the word should.
You should be like that. It's not serving anybody. It's not doing anybody any good by having those thoughts. So, you know, take a good look back at yourself over the years. Who were you as a child? Because who we are as children are fundamentally who we are at our core. And when we're children, we don't, before the age of about 6, we don't really question much, to be honest. We are authentically our own person. When we're tired, we sleep. When we're hungry, we ask for food. When we need cuddles and reassurance, we ask for it. Yeah. So what have we lost along the way? What part of who we are at our core have we lost along the way as we've gone through life's experiences? And really remembering those early years and trying to connect with ourselves as to who we were when we were young often helps bring back some confidence and kind of reassurance and self-trust that, you know, actually we have a lot going for us. So there's some tips there, and there's some areas that I work with women, asking yourself those questions, you know, where are my boundaries? Where are they serving me positively? Where are they not? How much time am I actually spending really focusing on myself and what I need right now? Am I comparing myself to other people? How does that feel? And writing all of these answers down, spending sort of 20 minutes, as many times as you need to, maybe once a day or once a week or once a month, just writing these things down. It gives us some insight. It helps us to detach from the emotion of all of this. It's a very cathartic exercise, so it's very stress relieving. And it helps us to detach from the emotion and put it into perspective. And once it's written down, it's often a lot easier to manage, and you can then start looking, okay, so what strategies can I use to stop this kind of behavior or to stop this kind of habit? And so that's a really useful exercise. The environment that you're in also plays into this, and how stressed or relaxed you feel. So cluttered spaces can create feelings of overwhelm and anxiety. Emily, just a little tip for you there.
I'm only laughing because just before we started recording, we were discussing the amount of random stuff we have on our desks. Yeah, okay. He pulled my hands up. I am cluttered, sorry.
Tidy spaces invoke a sense of calm. So, you know, look at your environment. If you feel you need to calm down, you know, that's one of the places you can look. Colours and objects also bring a sense of calm. So something that I'll do seasonally is I'll go about the house and I'll change cushion covers. During maybe in the spring and in the autumn, I'll change cushion covers, I'll change throws, I'll reorganize things, because in the winter I feel I want to nest down and be warm and cozy, and in the spring I feel a bit lighter and I want bright colors around me. And that's a really, you know, textures and colors can be really relaxing as well. So have a look around your environment and just see what you can do to adapt. It doesn't mean you've got to go and redecorate. All it means is you might just need to tweak some of your environments, just make it a little bit more relaxing. We've talked about social media before. I'm a great advocate of having a support system, and there are some fantastic groups, because we're in one. There are some fantastic groups. I would say try to bring some positivity to the group as well, wherever you can, because it's really easy to get sucked into the symptoms and somebody else's issues, and then start projecting that back onto yourself, which is then going to increase stress levels. So yeah, they're a great support, but just try to bring some positivity to it as well. And also, what support network do you have outside of social media? I think, I mentioned before, partners are a great support, but because they care about us and they love us, they want to fix us. So often they're not the ideal person to go to, and it's really essential that you've got that very open communication with your partner so that they understand what you're going through. But maybe you need your own separate board of advocates who are the go-to people who just understand what you're going through and will just listen to you, because that's going to relieve so much stress as well. So anyone listening to this, I would say, have a good look at your life, write down the things that are causing you the most stress, the top 3 things, and make a commitment to yourself. Promise to take so many minutes of self-care time every day and just do something that's going to relax you. Be that going for a walk, journaling thoughts and feelings, just sitting in silence, candles, having some candles around and doing some candle gazing, reading a nice relaxing book, organizing the weekend so that once you get there that you're not flying around like a lunatic getting even more stressed out. Have a coaching session, or just do some pampering, just having a nice bath or something like that. An Epsom salt bath is a really good way to relax. And just, I guess, make a list of things that would relax you, but don't try and attack them all at once, because that's going to lead to overwhelm, and that's really going to contribute towards the stress. And I'm a great believer in stackable habits. So just start with one thing. Just start with one thing and do that on a regular basis. And then that will eventually become normal. And then add another one on, and then add another one on, and just stack them up. Often when we dive wholeheartedly into to a new regime, we do it with the best intentions. But what we can do is we can overwhelm ourselves, and it's just not sustainable. And when it's not sustainable, we then give up, and then we lose confidence in ourselves, and we beat ourselves up again, and we go back to that inner voice. And I say to women, you talk to yourself that way, but would you talk to your friend that way? Well, no. So why is it okay to talk to yourself that way?
Absolutely.
So those are my tips on managing stress.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Lesley.
You're very welcome.